Thanks very much for coming along today. My name's Sally Roberts. I'm the lead for people at Dairy Australia. What does that mean? It means I get to do all the great stuff I think that Dairy Australia are involved in and the regional development programs are delivering with you and to your employees. I've got quite a wide remit. I look at things around workforce, safety and compliance, and people and capability. So like I said, all the good stuff. And I'm hoping that today's session can be really informative for you, particularly around Dairy Passport. I'm looking for it to be as interactive as possible. So if you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat. I'm a one-woman show today, but I will get to them as we go through, and I'll attempt to answer as many questions as I can. So if you're thinking something as I'm talking, just pop that question in the chat, and I'll get to it as we go through the session. So today's session is around the Pathways for People in Dairy. It's a program or an initiative that you may have heard of. And it is something that we're pretty excited about in Dairy Australia. So what I'm going to do today is I am not going to bore you with PowerPoint. I'm going to run through a few slides just to kind of set the scene, and then we're going to jump into Dairy Passport, and I'm going to take you on a tour of that, show you the many features that are in there, and respond to any questions you have in particular about using Dairy Passport as well. That's the main objective of today. For those of you who are based in Victoria, this project has some support that's available in particular to Victoria farmers, so I'll run through that as well. And then I'll give you some next steps that you can take away and really implement within your business in terms of resources, URLs, and support that's available to you as well. I should say as well, this session will be located on the People in Dairy website once we've finished. So if you've had that much of a good time and you want to go back and watch it, you'll be able to. So what I'll do is I'll just give you a little bit of an overview, as I said, where this came from, and just give you some context as to how this opportunity came around. So Dairy Passport and many of the things that we will talk about today have existed previously, but Dairy Australia was quite fortunate to gain some funding through Agricultural Victoria that had a COVID-19 sort of flavour to it, and enabled us to really make some significant changes and additions to many of the resources we have and enhance those for you and your farm business. And some of the requirements you can see on the screen there, I won't read through them all, but they were kind of the key criteria that Agriculture Victoria was looking for and why we were successful in securing this funding. And really, in a nutshell, yes, it does have a COVID-19 lens to it, and we all know that COVID-19 is going to be in our lives for a little while, but we're taking a much more longer term approach with this. And as you know, workforce is one of the key opportunities within our businesses, and also the key challenges when it comes to finding people and retaining them and developing them within your farm business. So it's something that Dairy Australia and the regions have been working on, for many years, but this was kind of a nice injection of funding that allowed us to sort of enhance and really rapidly deploy some of the plans that we had on the shelf sort of raring to go. So what does all this mean for you and your employees? I just wanted to break it down a little bit so you could kind of get a sense of what this investment has allowed us to do. As I said, it is for Victoria, but all of this is available nationally to all farmers. So if you're in this group and you're not from Victoria, don't worry, you'll be able to access everything that I'll talk about today, and where it is Victoria specific, I'll call that out as well. So in a nutshell, what it really means is it is, like I said, about enhancement, but it is also about some new support that's available for farmers and employees. And this project has a specific feel about attracting people into the industry that may not have been in sort of our remit before. So we've got all these people obviously that are, due to COVID, available and looking for work and looking for opportunities, and I guess really reconsidering, where they might be located, what their future holds, and we really saw this as a great opportunity to tap into some of that enthusiasm and opportunity that's available. So the key elements that have been delivered or are being delivered within this investment that we're basically, systems connectivity means we're aligning things better. So I know it can be frustrating sometimes when you're trying to find information and it isn't all in the one place, and that's what this project is aiming to do. So Dairy Passport and the people in dairy are really speaking to each other, so you can find what you need when you need it and apply it to your business. So there's been a real effort around enhancing how we give you information and the way that you can access that and apply that within your business. We've also built a COVID-19 onboarding framework as part of this project. So as I said, it does have a COVID kind of take on it. So what that means in a really practical sense is that where COVID information is relevant to you, we have put that within our products and our resources and our tools So it's there for you to be able to access. And we haven't sort of recreated the wheel here. The industry has a heap of information relating to COVID that you may have seen. And we've really just put that in one location. So you can find it really easily and apply it with your staff and stay up to date with what's happening in terms of COVID as well. Dairy Passport. Dairy Passport's really the foundational piece in this project. So it is something that we've had available for a little while. We've been piloting it with a range of farmers. And what we've really done to it is we've taken it from being a compliance sort of related tool that allows you to create standard operating procedures and policies for your farm, and added a whole element around bringing new people into your business. So we've got an onboarding framework or a structure that I'll take you through today that you can use with new people that you're bringing into your business that takes you across a 90-day journey and really provides support for both you and those people coming into the industry in a really practical way that is all stored within Dairy Passport. We've also got some documents in there around COVID. We've got some other really cool things that I think it's better that I show you rather than talk to it right now. So we'll save that for a bit later. We've also built what's called a pre-employment learning package. And this, I think, is one of the key exciting elements that this investment has allowed us to do. So we all know how important it is to attract people into the industry, but we also know that getting the right people is absolutely critical. So this learning package, which I'll show you in a moment, is on the People in Dairy website, and it actually takes people through, what the opportunities are to work in dairy, what dairy looks like, what living in a regional community is like, because they may be coming from, different locations, and really spark that curiosity about what's possible within the industry, as well as have really tangible pieces of information about where to go to find jobs, what kind of roles are available, and what the opportunities or that value proposition is for that person looking to come into the industry as well. So that by the time they get to you and they're applying for a job, they've got that context of dairy, they've got some understanding of the culture of dairy and the industry, and hopefully that match and that recruitment process is going to be better for you as well. In terms of the on-farm onboarding and the coaching, as I said, that's something that we've put in Dairy Passport. And that's really about supporting farmers to bring new people into your business, as I said, over that 90-day journey, but also something that you can utilise with your existing staff on farm as well. So some tips about, how to approach different technical components within their role, also how to give feedback, and really how to have a discussion around the capability that's required, both for existing people on farm and also for new entrants coming in as well. The milking and mastitis management box there on the screen is not something that we've built within this project, but something that we're signposting to. So milking and mastitis management is a program that's run from the Regional Development Program. So if you've got any interest in signing up, then do contact them. But in terms of this project, we've really integrated it so that you can access that information really easily through Dairy Passport, and that it's aligned within the role or the requirements of the person that's working within your business as well. So again, I'll show you that in a little while. It'll make a bit more sense. And just along the bottom, just really reinforcing that it is about having pathways. So this project and the Australian Dairy Plan and Dairy Australia's strategic plan is speaking very strongly about clarity of pathways and really supporting people to access those and understand those. And they're not necessarily linear pathways. They can be, as we know, how people are employed and just the changing nature of work, what's called sort of portfolio careers. So people kind of hopping around in between industries, in between roles. And it's not always a linear kind of progression that we're looking at. So it's really important to reach out to those different audiences, different generations who have different drivers, than we do sometimes, and really speak to that value proposition about what dairy is, and be really clear with them about what the opportunities are in this great industry. I just wanted to show you sort of how all this works. I've talked about a lot of things that we've built or we've enhanced and that are available to you, but what does that actually look like? And keeping in mind that this money this investment that we've received is from the Victorian government. So I'm talking about the Victoria particular workforce here, but this is applicable across Australia. So again, if you're not from Victoria, just take the word Victoria out up the top. So really this is how we see our investment and our effort in this project really assisting you and people coming into the industry. So the green boxes are things that we have invested in through this project, and the blue are things that are either currently existing or things that are sort of in market that we're not directly involved in terms of Dairy Australia. So you can see from the left-hand side of the screen, job seekers are coming in. They're looking at vacancies. So part of this project is it comes under the Working for Victoria effort, that the government platform that's up online that you can have a look at, that I'll give you a link to a bit later on. So there are people registering for that, registering their interest in dairy, that then can come into the industry and access that pre-employment learning package that I was talking about before. So that's kind of where we kick in. We kick in at the green box there that says, here's what dairy is, here's what's in it for you, you know, come and join the industry. And then obviously they would then go off and the recruitment process would happen between the dairy farm business. They would become employed. And then the next green box is sort of where we pick them up again in this project, is that's where Dairy Passport kicks in. So Dairy Passport, in terms of being an employee, you only register once you've got a role, and then you are associated with a farm that's employing you, and then you can access all that information once it's been set up. Then obviously there's a heap of things already in play that you're probably aware about through the regional development programs in Dairy Australia around extension and ongoing capability development and knowledge and experience that the new employee and obviously you as farmers can tap into, and Dairy Passport is designed to assist you with that. And then in terms of Victorian farmers and people that are on the line, there is some coaching support available through this project too. So the government has provided some provision to give one-on-one support to people around this project, particularly in utilising Dairy Passport, bringing new people into your business, developing your coaching skills, and really just thinking about how we can support you to really unpack what I think is gold that we're able to deliver through this project. And then the final arrow just kind of going across the screen says, look, there might be some people who, you know, leave the industry, there might be casual roles, and they may kind of go back into the cycle and come back through again. So it's really just showing that sort of overall workforce component that we're dealing with. And really that we haven't created any sort of duplication in here, and it really is enhancing, you know, what already exists. And the regional development programs are providing, you know, great services to farmers in the regions as well. This is kind of a nice little add-on that we're able to do through this investment. So just to keep moving through the slides, so just talking about getting a job, and I just wanted to show you the people in dairy. So most of you are probably familiar with the people in dairy. This is where the employment starter kit and most of our people management resources live. So if you haven't been there yet, do go and have a look. Not while I'm talking to you now, but later on. And you'll notice a little bit of a difference. I've just given a little before and after. So this project has allowed us to update the people in dairy. So the picture on the left was the before, and the picture in the middle is the now. And we've also improved the mobile access to the people in dairy as well. So just speaking to that connectivity piece that I mentioned at the start, it really is about enhancing that. So one of the things with the people in dairy, it was a very farmer-focused website. You know, it's about providing resources for you and your business to manage people. And so this project, obviously, we've got a pretty decent lens at looking at, you know, people coming into the industry, and we wanted them to feel really welcome and part of the industry as well. So we've just added some information about everything you need to get employed. So there's a place when they come into the website that they can see that they're part of this, they can access that learning package, they can find out about getting jobs in dairy, and absolutely welcome to have a look through the rest of the site and see, you know, what we're up to as an industry in terms of employing people, but very much giving them a location and a spot to come in through. So this is what the learning package looks like. And again, there's a link down the bottom there if you'd like to have a look. That links off that tile that I was just pointing to on the homepage. So this really plays to the, you know, getting out there and promoting dairy and creating some awareness about what opportunities there are in the industry, and also talking about the industry as a whole. So you can see on the screen there are 4 modules that people can work through. People can work through these at any stage that they like, depending on what sparks their interest. It's a bit choose your own adventure like. So if people know, you know, quite a bit about the industry, they may not start at the first module, and they can hop between all of them. There's no registration required. There's no assessment or anything like that. It's all open access, so people can jump in and just have a look and you know, hopefully learn something about the industry. So the first module is around the journey from farm to table. So it's really about people who may not have much understanding about dairy, but do have an interest in learning a little bit more about that. So that's definitely where they would start. The second one concentrates on what living in a regional community is like. So quite a lot of the research that we did prior to this project was thinking about, you know, who are our target audiences to come and take up these amazing jobs on great farms in the dairy industry. And there was, you know, we thought an opportunity to really promote the benefits of being part of a regional community and what that meant in terms of the industry and the person as well. The third one is around moving into a career. So really spelling out kind of what the roles and opportunities look like, what's happening on farm, and really give a flavour for what that looks like, you know, using video, using really dynamic content as well, so people could really get a sense and feel for that while they're reading through that. And also start talking about the culture of dairy and setting people up for success as they move into the last module, which is about getting the job. So things like, you know, what sort of questions might they be asked? How do they nail the interview? You know, what does a CV template look like? Things like that. And then that signposting out to this page here, which is ready to look for job opportunities. So actual places where jobs might be listed, and how to work with networks to enable those opportunities as well. And as you can see on the right hand side, just a screenshot of what it looks like on mobile. Again, mobile friendly. So would really encourage you to jump in and have a look at that. I think this has been sort of the missing piece in the puzzle, I guess, in terms of attracting people into the industry. We've had some great initiatives and programs in the past, but this one being really visual and really encompassing of what dairy is, and then kind of going down into the opportunities and the careers that are available, I think is really powerful. So I really encourage you to have a look and to let us know and give us feedback about what you find in there. So I'm just going to switch screens now and jump onto Dairy Passport, so just bear with me a second. Okay, great. So hopefully you can see Dairy Passport on the screen. So Dairy Passport, look, like I said, something that we've had previously, and I'd actually, before I jump into Dairy Passport, I'd love to know how many of you on the call are actually registered on Dairy Passport. So I'm just going to put a little poll up, and if you could just complete that, that would be fantastic. It'll just help me to describe and get a gauge on how expert I am, who the experts are on the call that I'm talking to.
Sally, it's Sarah Cornell. We can still see the front of your PowerPoint presentation. Is that what we're supposed to be looking at, or the Dairy Passport home screen?
Awesome. Voice of reason. Thank you.
Yes, now it's got it.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, fantastic. Look, thanks for everyone who's completed the poll. So about 65% of you on the call have registered for Dairy Passport, so that's fantastic. So look, I'm talking to the converted, so that's awesome. And look, I really hope that I can give you some tips about some of the extra features you might not be aware of and some of the new things that we've built in this project. Given that most people have registered for Dairy Passport, look, I'm not going to focus too much on the registration process. There are some videos and some assistance available via the Help Centre that can help you register if you haven't already registered. But yeah, I won't focus too much on that because I think you're probably already there by the looks of it. Just to say that part of this project has allowed employees to now register on Dairy Passport. So if you've been registered for a little while, you would have noticed that previously it was just farmers that could register. So now employees can register. As I said, they do need to have a role on farm because they need to tag themselves or attach themselves to a farm to be active, I guess, in the platform. But if you are, wanting to have a look at that, do go in and have a look and just see the process. Pretty straightforward. And you as the farm owner manager would approve that person before they get access to anything on your farm. So still very much driven by you. You control everything. Yeah, I won't focus too much on that. But if you've got any particular questions about registration, like I said, just pop them in the chat and I'm more than happy to answer those as we go. So probably I touched on the Help Centre, and I'll just point that out because I'm not sure if you're aware of it and whether you've had a look. There's a heap of information that's available in this Help Centre, and you can jump in and watch some short videos, read some guides, and you can also send us a request. So if you get stuck and you've got a technical question that you need to ask, there's a help desk that sits within there via email. You just log a ticket, as they call it, and it'll get sent to our help desk support. So if you get stuck, that's the place to go. Yeah, do have a look through the Help Centre. We're in the process of updating some of the items in there just to reflect the new features, but there's a heap of information in there. Hopefully that can help get you started. So just to start, I will log in and show you some of the new features that are in Dairy Passport. So for most of you who have registered and perhaps you've jumped in the last month or so, you may have noticed a difference to the dashboard or the homepage, as we call it. So previously we had some tiles and less functionality, I guess, on this homepage. But everything that you've used before is still here, and we've just added or enhanced what is available now to you. So I'll just run through what that means. So I'm logged in as a manager at the moment. If I was logged in as an employee, I would just see this, this pillar over here. So my farm activity, so employees can see my onboarding, my SOPs, my policies, and documents is in their screen as well. As the farm manager, you get to see everything that's available in Dairy Passport. And look, it's up to you how you use it within your business. We've really set it up in a way, we hope that's really flexible, and we understand that, you know, every farm business is different and everybody has a different approach to the way they operate their business. And this is really attempting to provide some frameworks and some structures and places you can start and utilise within your business that you can customise. So just to run through the main functionality. So under the farm management section, we've got managing people, which if you've used Dairy Passport, that's the grid that has all your people on farm. So we'll have a look at that in a minute. The onboarding section is new to and through this investment that we've got from the Victorian government, something that we've built. So we'll jump in there in a minute and have a look. The task is as it was before, so a list of the tasks rather than a list of people. So you can navigate the information in that way if you like. The reporting is again, very similar to how it was before. So anything that you do within Dairy Passport is available via the reporting function. So if you wanted to have a look at what standard operating procedures I'd completed if I'm employed on your farm, you can go in there and run a report. It'll show you what I've done, when I did it, what version I agreed to, and you can take all of that out in an Excel spreadsheet as well for your records. In the middle column, we've got coaching. So that's a new area that we've got that relates to the onboarding, and also I said about sort of developing that capability on farm. So we'll definitely run through that as well. The standard operating procedures and the policies components are the same as they were before. We've added some new content in the standard operating procedures. So very welcome to go in there and have a look. There's some new templates in there and we'll keep those up to date as and when things change so that the latest information will always be available to you. And the document section is a new component within this project as well. It's got a heap of COVID documents in there at the moment, and it also allows you to upload documents and share them with your farm team too. So we'll definitely have a look at that. I might just start with the managing people section, even though I think I've got a group of well-versed Dairy Passport users on the line today. But just to start here, I think, because this is really the heart of Dairy Passport. So Dairy Passport allows you to add all of your farm team members into this grid structure and then allocate what roles, responsibilities, tasks, activities align to each of those members of staff. So you can have, you know, multiple people, multiple farm hands, for example, and they can all have a slightly different profile within Dairy Passport if you want to set it up that way. It's completely flexible to how you want to do it. So you can see on here, I'm just logged into a demonstration farm. So I've got quite a few of my alter egos listed down the side there. And you can see that it uses a grid and a legend system to indicate activity on this screen. So across the top here, we've got all of the categories that are listed on Dairy Passport. The ones that are in blue are what we call fundamentals, and they relate to activities and categories that are listed in the onboarding sections, which we'll go to next. So these are really, you know, fundamental 101 areas of capability and competence that are required, you know, coming into a dairy business. So we've really structured that 90-day journey around onboarding relating to these. And you can, in your own time, or if you're already well versed, you can run through all of these and have a look. You can set this up however you like. So you can really customize this to suit your business. And as I said, you can assign each of these to each person. The color coding indicates what level or status each person has done in each area. So for example, we've got a few here that are orange, and that's saying that that's needed to complete an on-farm activity or some training policies, and additional training is complete. I should say too that if it's got a blue box around it, that means that as the farm manager, I've said that I've set up the system to say that that person needs to access that information. So for example, Sal Roberts needs to have access to chemical handling information because that's part of her role on the farm. If I haven't indicated that when I'm setting up employees, they won't be able to access that information. And it is really flexible when you're adding people to your farm or they're registering. It's pretty easy to do. So there's a little button up here called the Update People Matrix. And that's what sits behind this grid. So if you go in there and you make any changes, that'll be reflected on the grid. So for example, if Sarah Roberts here, I wanted to change what information was available to her, I could go into update people matrix, and I just select the farm, and then it'll bring up all those people that are on that grid that we were just looking at. And you can see that if there's a blue box, that means it's allocated on the grid, and I can therefore see that information. And if it's not, I can make an edit to do that. So it's just a matter of working through the different categories. So if I decided that I wanted to add tractors, I can click add tractors, come down to the end, hit save changes, and it will take me back to the grid. And you can see now that I've got tractor operations listed here. So really good if you're, wanting to allocate additional responsibilities, you're looking at developing some capability in that member of staff, and you're wanting to give them access to standard operating procedures or policies that you've created relating to that, that category or that activity. And that would then allow them to view that. So if they're using the app that Dairy Passport has, that would then share those standard operating procedures and policies that relate to that task or activity, or they can jump in on the website and access those as well. So there's quite a lot going on in this screen, noted, and it's quite colourful deliberately, just to really differentiate between each of the different areas on farm. And it is, a live, living component of Dairy Passport. And as I said, it's the real heart of it, because it allows you to share information and also monitor what's going on within your business as well. So just to give you an idea, again, you may have looked at this, given that most of you, or a lot of you, have registered. Each category has a section that you can jump into and see what's going on. So the grid is really designed to give you a really quick understanding of the status of each person and each activity. But this is where you can go in and get a really clear understanding of what's going on. So on this little section, we can see that we've got the activities listed down the side here. We've got an on-the-job sign-off. We've also got a coaching guide. So even though the coaching guides are part of that onboarding journey, that 90-day journey that we're going to have after we've gone through this section, they are available here as well. So coaching isn't just about bringing new people into the business. It could be that you've got some existing employees that you could, utilise some of these coaching tips and guides with as well. And you can access those from here. So it's just a matter of clicking on that button, and you can pop that up. It's a PDF, and it will give you some tips. So it's really about utilisation of using quad bikes here within your business. It's not a kind of how-to guide, but it's more about the discussion and the conversation to ensure that employees are really clear on using quad bikes, for example. And there's also an overall coaching guide. So every section that you go into in Dairy Passport, you're able to jump in here and click on the coaching guide. It's kind of the coach's coaching guide, if that makes sense. So how to coach, really. So that's got some tips for you in terms of your approach and how you might, discuss feedback, how to develop new skills, things like that with staff. On the right-hand side here, you can see standard operating procedure status. So this person hasn't agreed to 2 standard operating procedures that have been released to them. And so you can see that if they had been completed, it'd be 1 for 1. And there's not a standard operating procedure against this particular task or activity. And you're able to completely control what standard operating procedures are aligned to which activity over here very easily. We have set up the templates in a way that they tag or are attached to what we think is suitable. So for this example, we've got one around quad bikes that aligns to these 2, but there may be something else on the farm that you would want to also add into that, and that's really easy to do. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. If there was a policy, and there is a quad bike policy, it's just not attached to this farm, that would be showing here as well, and that would have a similar thing around the status, so whether this person had agreed to it or not. And then there's some information about additional training. So if there are short courses and also accredited training as well. So you do need to actually tick this to enable the grid to turn green. So if it's not required or it's been completed, you can certainly tick that. And then the on-the-job sign-off is kind of the final piece, really. So when you're when you've taken the person through, how they're using a quad bike on your farm, you're feeling really comfortable that they're aware of your policies, they've signed up to the standing operating procedures, they've demonstrated using a quad bike, whatever your criteria is for the particular activity, you could then tick on the job sign-off, and it will complete. So this person will still not turn green because they haven't completed these standard operating procedures here, but everything else has been completed. So you just close that little card and the grid will update automatically. So that's a really easy way to go in and see, you know, the status of each person who's working within your business. As I said, you can run a report as well, but the report's probably more around compliance and pulling out information and evidence around, you know, what somebody's done within the business. This is really probably a more proactive and at a glance view, so you can manage the people within the business. And I should point out that the categories listed across the top here, there's a little legend down the bottom here, so just explaining what they are and how they work within the system. So yeah, like I said, that's really the heart of Dairy Passport. It's got some other functions on here too, so you can jump straight into reports if you want to. You don't have to go back to the home page. You can add a person to your farm as well. So if you've registered on Dairy Passport and you've started to put your standard operating procedures and policies in place, and you're now ready to add people to your farm, you can do that really easily here. So you just select add user, you enter this information. I'll just put my name in for now. You can search for existing users. So if you know that this person, if you've got their email address and you know that they've already been registered on Dairy Passport, you can click search existing users, which is great because that will just speed up the process of bringing them onto your farm. You can create a new user if you're pretty sure that they haven't been on Dairy Passport before. And again, just fill in this information. And here you can select whether they're a new employee or an existing employee. So if they're a new employee, new to your business, that would allow them to access this onboarding system that we're about to look at. If they're an existing employee, so someone who's been in your business for a while, but you're adding them to Dairy Passport, you know, as a new person, you would select existing employee. That person won't be able to access that onboarding framework because they don't need to be inducted and onboarded into your business, but you can still access all of those coaching guides and all of that information that we were looking at in the fundamentals section through here. So you could still use, you know, some coaching guides with them if you wanted to, regardless of whether they're new to your business or they're existing staff within your business. Thank you for the note about the quad bike. I know we're in the process of updating it, but that's very good attention to detail, so thank you. So I'll just go back to the homepage and take you through the onboarding. So we've been through managing people. Like I said, that's the heart of Dairy Passport. And hopefully, if you haven't used that so far, you can jump in after this call and have a look through it and start adding people to the system. So the onboarding structure is really a tool and a framework that you can use to bring new people into your business, and keeping in mind that this project is COVID focused, and it was about how do we ensure if there is, you know, say there is a crisis around workforce, how can we bring people into the industry in a really safe way that enables them to be job ready and compliant and capable to work within your business. So we talked about, you know, we've had induction checklists, we've had a heap of information available in the past around this, and it was how do we really enhance that? How do we really support you to feel comfortable to be able to coach and develop the capability of these people on farm, because we're in a restricted environment. You know, Dairy Australia and the regions are, particularly in Victoria, unable to run a lot of face-to-face extension at the moment. And we wanted to make sure that you were still able to access some of the things that you require to bring these people into business in a really capable way. So it's just a matter of selecting the farm, and then you can select the employee. So remember, these are the people that are new, that when they've registered or you've registered them in the system, they're new employees, not existing employees. And I should say too that employees can see this information. The information they get at the top of the screen is a little bit different, but in terms of the actual structure in the framework, they can see all of the same information. We thought that was really important because they're obviously new to the industry, they're new to your business, and it really kind of gives them an idea of kind of what's coming up, you know, over the 90 days, their first 90 days on farm. I think it's worth saying that, as I said at the start, we know every farm is different, and we know everybody does things differently, and we know at different times of the year things are done differently as well. So by no means is this how you do it all the time. This is a starting point for you to utilise and customise within your business. So how it works is we've got a little timeline across here that you can work through, and it's really designed to kind of chunk out the key components in terms of developing capability and awareness and understanding of new people within your business. So we've got what's called a pre-start here, which is really about the employee's first day and getting them sort of set up for success. And so what you can do in here is you can come in and look at the pre-start checklist. You can sign off with coaching if you've had a coaching session or a discussion with your new employee, and they can also access any standard operating procedures, as can you, that relate to this particular topic in the system as well. Only you can sign off on the coaching session, so the employee, this is not active in theirs, but they can read the pre-start checklist. And again, it's really designed to set their expectations, and everything that we provide to employees through the platform says, make sure you talk to your supervisor, farm manager about how they're using Dairy Passport within their business, because everybody is using it differently. So this is not replacing the need to communicate. This is really enabling you to have a structure and a framework to progress that communication. And then you can just flick through between these. So look, there's a lot of information, and we know that there's a lot of capability and a lot of tasks and a lot of activities that new people coming onto farm have to do in the first 90 days. And we've tried to really stretch that out, chunk that out, as I said, into the key areas, and also think about how people learn too. So this is a lot of information to take on board. And if you think about, when you started something new recently, it might be a new hobby or, a new area of life that's come into your life because of COVID. It can often be quite overwhelming. So what we've done is we've tried to think about how much can somebody take on and what is the best way for them to take that information on, and how people learn as well. People have different learning styles, different approaches. So we've tried to consider all of those elements when we've been creating this framework as well. And as I said, it'll apply differently across businesses, but it's really a starting point that you can then tailor to your business. So on day one, you can see we've got things around the farm vision and values and your team and the role. Again, we've just highlighted the aim of what this is, and taken some information out of the coaching guide there. We've got things around culture and team behaviours. Obviously got things around safety, because that's absolutely pivotal, when starting in any role. We've got some information about COVID, PPE, emergency procedures. And I'll just open one of these up so you can actually see what they look like. So there are 23 coaching guides in total that are available through the 90-day onboarding journey. As I said, they're PDFs. You can look at them on any internet connected device. They are designed to support you when you're discussing these areas with new staff or existing staff, and really how to have the conversation about what the topic is that you're talking about. It points out any COVID specific information that you might want to consider in that conversation, and then it has some tips about how you might do this. And it's not really designed as a checklist per se, but it does have sort of a flow and a way to work through that, and quite often suggest some questions you might want to ask or consider when you're talking about this particular area with staff, and then working through again some things that you can do in terms of reflection, and really ensuring that they are aware of their responsibility as an employee as much as their role within the business as well. So I would encourage you to have a look through all of those. I won't go through them all today because we're time constrained, but they are aligned to each of those elements, and you can just work through this structure as well. So for you to be able to see this, if you are registered on Dairy Passport, you would have to sign up a new employee within your business. You could do that as a kind of demonstration account if you wanted to have a look at that, if you were really keen and eager, before people were coming in. So you can see they'll go down the page. And again, just keep in mind that those fundamentals that were running across the top of the screen that we were just looking at in managing people, that's what's being reflected here. And just to point out that then it comes to the last stage. Again, I won't go through everything because you can have a look, but it really just gives you some tips about how to deal with weeks 8 to 10 and 11, and really thinking about performance and how you can support this person within your business as well, and how you can utilise coaching in that support too. So I'd strongly encourage you to have a look at that when you've got some free time. Yeah, I think we've had some really good feedback about it so far. Like I said, it is applicable and customizable to your business. So I think you don't have to do absolutely everything that's in there. It's completely up to you how you utilise that. And so just moving through, if you wanted to have a look at all the coaching guides, they are available in here. So you can get them in the managing people when we looked at the grid against each activity. You can get them in the onboarding section again against each activity. But if you just wanted to have a look at the complete list of everything that's available and see, whether that's something that you want to utilise, you can jump in here and have a look. We've got some information about coaching and kind of how it applies to that 90 days on farm and what onboarding is all about. And then we've got some tips about what you might want to do before you coach and how you can utilise this within your business. We've also got an image of what that looks like too. So really mindful that there's a lot of information in that onboarding framework. And if you aren't onboarding somebody, you won't see it until you need it. So we've put an information diagram in here that shows you kind of how that splits out over the sort of initial pre-start, and then in that first month, again, noting that things will be different at different times of the year, and then how it's about repeating and reflecting and reinforcing coaching sort of towards the end. And we're in the process of building a skills check or a review, 90-day review, that'll be added to the site later this year. I think there's also some tips here for you as a coach. So I mentioned before that, people have different learning styles, and it's really important to be mindful of this. So there are some tips in there about how you might want to utilise these when you're coaching for success in your business, and just how, different things work with different people, don't they? So there's some tips in there about doing that. There's also some tips about coaching for a new skill. And I think this is particularly useful given the amount of skills and capabilities that are required to work in your business, and how quickly you may need these to be developed as well, so that person is job ready and up to speed for you. And it's really worth pointing out that it can be difficult to coach for a new skill when it's something that you've done for so long and you know so well and so inherently. And so it's really thinking about how can you pass this knowledge and information on to somebody who may be new to dairy and certainly new to your business in a way that's going to be meaningful and stick with them. So we've really broke that down into some steps that you can take and really get them to play back to make sure that they understand what you've told them and they can demonstrate that skill. So I'll again encourage you to go in there and have a look at that. And the final tip is around giving and receiving feedback. And I think this is something, that can be quite challenging sometimes to give and receive feedback, regardless of whether it's in the workplace or your family or whoever. So again, some tips around, how you might do that, and keeping in mind, obviously, learning styles and different personalities and things like that too. So there's some tips there. Again, I'll keep moving because I'm aware of the time, but by all means do have a look in there as well. And then towards the bottom is the list of coaching guides that I mentioned. So there are 23, and it's worth pointing out that the milking and mastitis component, which are these ones here, sit on our Enlight platform. So if you've done the milking and mastitis management program, that sits in a different program system in Enlight, but we do have the connectivity here that will allow you to access that information as well. So those will require a registration to access, but the rest are PDFs on the site. So you can jump in here and have a look at them at any time. You can see that it's matching up to that onboarding framework that we had, suggested framework around what day, what time you might want to do this with your staff member, and then also what activity or task it relates to. So that's the grid that we're looking at the start. Across the top, where does this fit and what day am I thinking about doing it on this? And you might completely mix this up, depending on the time of the year or what you're doing within your business or what capability you're looking to develop. You can jump in here and have a read of those and really think about, I guess, before you're talking to your members of staff or your teams around, setting yourself up for success as well. I'll just go back to the homepage. There's one more thing I want to show you. So like I said, I won't run through the standard operating procedures and policies, but if you've got any particular questions about those, more than happy to take them. The documents section, as I said, is something new and something that we had quite a lot of feedback when we were piloting Dairy Passport with farmers about. They wanted a place to locate some of their key documents that you wanted to share with staff. So we've preloaded it with some COVID information. So you can see that the COVID safe plan is at the top. They're really practical things that you would use on farm rather than information about COVID per se. But it does point out to the Dairy Australia website. So if you're looking for that more comprehensive information about the response and the industry information around COVID, you can grab that. These are checklists and posters and things that you might want to use within your business. If you're looking to add information to the site to share with your staff, you can do this. It's worth pointing out that personal information shouldn't be stored in Dairy Passport. So all of your staff will be able to see these documents. So it's not the place to be putting people's contracts or personal information that you don't want to be shared across your business. This is more like things like, might be farm maps, it could be team meeting information, could be general information that you want to share across your farm team. So it's pretty easy to do. You just go in there and you can write the name of the file, select where it fits in there, and then choose the file, upload it, and it will be available to everybody who's attached to your farm within Dairy Passport. So completely up to you how to use that, but yeah, I'll just point out that it shouldn't be anything too personal or anything that you don't want everybody to see, because they can. Great, I think I had a couple of questions, so I'll just have a look at those. And if you have any burning questions, now is the time to drop them in the chat box. All right, I'm just going to stop this so I can see what's going on. And I think somebody just put up their hand. Sorry, I couldn't really see because I was looking at Dairy Passport. So whoever that was, ask away. So Vanessa, you've asked, if you add a person to your farm who is already registered, what happens to the farm information they've come from? Great question. So one of the things with Dairy Passport and the name of where Dairy Passport has come from is that we are building a digital CV that will be released again later in the year. And one of the key asks or things that came back through feedback was that dairy farmers were looking for people that were job ready and that had some kind of validation of experience, I guess is the best way to say it. So what we're doing is we will build a capability record. So you would take some information from your previous experience to the new farm, but it will be none of that information that relates to the farm. So for example, if I'm working on Cameron Smith's farm, I would take a record that says I was driving tractors, I used quad bikes, I was inducted, that really high level. All of the standard operating procedures and policies and information relating to Cam and his farm stay with Cam, and I lose access to that the minute I leave Cam's business. So it's really a way of that employee being able to say at their next role, I've had some experience in this without providing any sort of farm business related information. And also for you when you're recruiting to be able to say, oh great, I can see that you've had some experience in here. I will obviously still need to, induct you into my business, but I can see that, in terms of coaching and the effort that I might need to put in, I can probably, spend more time on something else. So that's not something that's currently in the system. At the moment, the person will just transfer across in terms of their details, and we're building the Dairy Passport component and the capability record element at the moment. So that's not available, but hopefully next time when I see you, that will be. Okay, next question. Can you set up a template that you can use for multiple employees who do the same thing? i.e. a backpacker set it up once with all the roles and responsibilities so you don't have to set that up again. Great question, Daryl. No is the answer, and the reason no is the answer is that's originally how we sort of had it set up, and it drove everybody crazy. So we had it really assigned to roles. So again, if I was a farmhand on Cam's farm, farmhand had certain roles assigned to it or tasks assigned to it, and we did some trialing of that, and farmers were saying to us, but I have farmhands who do different things. They don't all do those 10 things that you've said relate to a farmhand. And it was a real pain point when we first started piloting Dairy Passport. So not at this point in time. It could be something down the track that we could set up profiles that we would be able to save that against. But unfortunately, no is the answer to that at this point in time. It is relatively easy to set somebody up though using that grid that I showed you before. Can you share your registration login with partners or managers in the business so everyone involved with training and developing staff can access Dairy Passport? And absolutely, and or you can set them up to have their own login as well. That's completely up to you. So yes, you're very welcome to share it. And if they're signed up as a manager, they'll be able to see, everything across the board. Or you could have multiple logins if you wanted to have, sort of different people or people logged in at the same time. Completely up to you. So yes, you can definitely share them if you want to. When do farmers expect staff to do this reading in Dairy Passport at work? Great question. It depends. It really depends on how you're using this within your business. So some of the information we've got is before people come into your business. If you are recruiting people or you have existing staff, you could really discuss with them how you're using it in your business and step them through that and give them a kind of guide as to how that works. It's completely up to you. I guess that like I've said throughout this presentation, we don't envisage we understand how every business works, and we're really just sort of providing a framework and some structures to enable you to be successful in your business. I think the great thing about Dairy Passport is that it is online and that people can access that information when they need it. So if I'm, in the shed and not sure how to do something, I can quickly look at the standard operating procedure and remind myself and do it correctly. So it really depends on what you see are the benefits of the system to your business, and I guess where you're at, with your staff and your teams around accessing and developing capability. Okay. Emily has asked, once an employee leaves, does the system archive this information and profile so that you can demonstrate that you've been recording training? For example, if you needed to demonstrate to WorkSafe your staff training, or if somebody claimed an injury after they left the workplace, you can still access the information to show that they were trained. Absolutely, Emily. So the reporting section will allow you to do that. And I know there's been a number of farmers who have used this information to discuss audits and visits from WorkSafe, and they have passed with flying colours. So it does absolutely archive everything that you put into the system, and you can pull out everything that you've put into the system. So again, if I was to claim an injury 5 years down the track, you would have all of the information in terms of what I've been trained in, what standard operating procedures I agreed to, when they happened, what version they were, what farm that was on, and dated. So all the standard operating procedures have dates against them, they have version control, and you can spit that out as an Excel spreadsheet, as I said. And we're doing obviously some work around when employees leave businesses as well, how we can package that up for you. So that's in a really nice little package that'll meet keeping those requirements for 7 years after they've left the business as well. So absolutely yes is the answer to that. So have a look in the reporting section and have a play around with that, and more than happy to provide some more information about that if that's a particular interest. Okay, a couple more questions. Josie, good to see you. In the standard operating procedures, can you download a PDF rather than use the templates available? Yes, you can, Josie. So you need to go into the template of the PDF, the template of the standard operating procedure and change it. So the template is a overarching, more generic approach to that particular activity. So you need to customize that to your farm. You need to change the name, make any changes that you need to do, and save it. And once you've saved it, you can then create a PDF from that standard operating procedure. So yes. Michelle, oh, you're on here too. Hello. What happens if you update a policy or standard operating procedure? Sure. So if you go into an existing policy or standard operating procedure, make some changes, you'll notice that it will ask you then if you want to save that, and then it will release that to the staff that have access to that. So if you remember when we were on the grid at the start, and we had those little blue boxes around different tasks and categories. So if I have access to quad bikes and Michelle updates her quad bike policy, that will be sent to me. Also, when you update your policies and standard operating procedures, you can do them on a farm by farm basis. So if you've got multiple properties and different policies or SOPs on those, you can release those to different farms as well. So it really is designed to be as user-friendly for you and hopefully take out some of the work that goes in setting those things up and allow you to update those really easily as well. Great, any more questions? You've got 3 minutes if you do. Don't be shy. I know it's quite a lot to get your head around, and I think probably the biggest tip I can give you is just take it slow and chunk it out. So if you've already registered on Dairy Passport, I would really strongly encourage you to set up your standard operating procedures and your policies first, and then think about adding people to the system and how you're going to utilise it within your business, because you really need to have that information there for them to access to probably give you the real benefit within the system. Okay, we've got one last question. Thank you, Trish. Is there a section in there where you can write under team meetings a summary of the meeting and the minutes? Absolutely, Trish. So you can upload a document if you've got something around. You might have an agenda and then a summary of what was discussed. So you can just create a document and then upload that directly, and then that will be shared with all your team. So absolutely. We haven't got a template in terms of team meetings in there, but if that's something that you'd be interested in, we could certainly add that to the system. That's probably the other thing I should finish on too. As you're using this, we are really keen to make sure this is what you need in your business. So if you've got any feedback or things that you think we could add to it, or tips about how to use it, or anything that's going to make this better for everybody, we would love to hear from you. I'm very happy for you to email me, call me, reach out to the regional development programs as well, and just provide that feedback, because it's really important this does what you need it to do, because this is here for you. And just before we finish, I just want to show you one more slide, which I didn't get to, which I promised you was about the next steps, and really promote a great opportunity to those farmers that are in Victoria. So as part of this project, we have coaching sessions that are available, which is the third dot point on here. So even if you're registered on Dairy Passport and you're thinking, wow, all of this sounds great, how do I activate this? How do I take the next step? I would strongly encourage you to jump on here and book a coaching session with one of our coaches. It's one-to-one. They'll take you through anything that you want to do in terms of Dairy Passport, whether that be onboarding new people, setting up standard operating procedures, just really getting it set up for success for you. They are available. They're waiting for you to register, and they'll respond and talk you through how to do that. So that's only for Victoria at this stage, because that's part of the government funding that we have. So I know there's a couple of people that are outside of Victoria on the call. It's not that we don't love you, it's just a funding requirement that we have at the moment. So, but everything else I've talked about today is available. The People in Dairy was where we started with the Employment Starter Kit. For those that aren't registered on Dairy Passport, that's your #1 job after jumping off the call today. Everyone in Victoria, strongly encourage you to have these coaching sessions. They've been getting great feedback about them. And they're, again, really designed to, allow you to embed this within your business. And again, for people in Victoria, if you haven't checked out the Working at Victoria website, there's some real support that's available to dairy farmers in there from the government in terms of accommodation, infrastructure, case management. So I'd really strongly encourage you to have a look there. The government does have some real tangible resources and support available for you. You do need to register for it, and it will go through the government as opposed to us. But there are some things in there that might make your life a little bit easier, and you can talk to the government about those and what's available to your business. So I'd strongly encourage you to have a look at those. As I said, if this was a hugely riveting watch and you want to watch it again, I will be putting this on the People in Dairy very shortly. And I would really encourage you to have a look in that help centre in Dairy Passport as well if you've got any questions. Great. Fantastic. Look, that's me. I've talked enough, I think. Thank you very much for all your time. And I hope you've got a couple of things out of that to go on with. And as I said, if you're in Victoria, book a coaching session, because I think that is exactly what we need to support you and to enable you to get the most out of Dairy Passport. And as I said, would love any feedback or comments you've got about the system in the future and how we can make sure this is doing exactly what you want. And lovely to see the people who had the camera on, and lovely to see you all. And thanks for your time today.